Last summer, I rented a 17th century countryside house in Tuscany. I was a third-year architecture student from Milan and wanted a quiet place to work on my final project. The house was beautiful. Stone arches, high wooden beams, ivy crawling up the walls. It felt like something out of a Renaissance painting. The owner was an older man who barely said a word. He handed me the keys and simply said, "Non disturbar le pareti." Don't disturb the walls. I thought it was just a poetic way of saying the house was fragile, old, but the first night I heard them. Whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind slipping through the cracks in the shutters. But it wasn't that. It sounded like voices coming from inside the walls. They weren't clear, just a soft muttering, and always around 2 a.m. I didn't sleep much that week. The whispers got louder with each night. I tried recording the sound, but playback was always silent. By the fifth night, I was certain they were saying something, over and over, non-andantine, "Don't leave." That same day, I noticed something odd in the study room, an old bookshelf with uneven spacing. One panel didn't match the others. I pushed it slightly and it moved. Behind it, I found a narrow hidden doorway, leading to a passage between the walls. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I grabbed my flashlight, slid through the gap, and found myself in a cold, narrow corridor. The air was thick. On one side were wooden slats, behind which I could hear my own footsteps echoing. Then I found it. A small room, maybe 6 feet wide, with stone walls and a metal ring in the floor. A rusted chain was attached to it. At the far end, a decaying wooden chair faced the wall. Scratch marks covered the floor, and on the wall, carved repeatedly, were the words, "Restate, restate, stay, stay." Something moved behind me. I turned. No one. I ran out and slammed the hidden door shut. I packed my things and left before nightfall. Weeks later, I researched the house. It had belonged to a minor noble family who reportedly imprisoned guests in secret rooms beneath the house if they overstayed their welcome. Locals claimed some were never seen again. But the creepiest part? The original owner had written in a journal, translated roughly from Italian. Even when they're gone, their voices stay. The house remembers. The house whispers.
Naples is loud, messy, beautiful, and old. I moved there for work, renting a small apartment in the historic center, right beside a crumbling 16th century church that had long since been abandoned. Locals said it used to be a convent. A bell tower rose above the rooftops, shadowing the alley where my kitchen window looked out. The church had no services, no maintenance, just pigeons and dust. And yet, every night at midnight, I heard the bell ring. Just once. One clear, metallic clang. At first, I thought I imagined it. Then I assumed maybe it was a nearby church, still using the same mechanism. But the sound always came from the same direction, the ruined bell tower beside me. Curious, I asked the old florist 2 doors down. Her eyes darkened immediately. "You hear it," she whispered. "Don't listen. If she knows you're listening, she won't stop." I pressed her for details, but she refused to say more. That night, I stayed up and waited. At exactly 12 o'clock, I opened my kitchen window. The streets were silent, and then, dong, one ring. I looked up, and I swear to God, I saw someone standing at the edge of the bell tower balcony. A woman in what looked like an old habit, like a nun, her hands clasped, her face hidden under the cowl. She wasn't moving, just standing, facing me. I stepped back and closed the curtain. But the next night, it happened again and again, until one night, she wasn't standing still anymore. She turned her head slowly toward me. I decided I needed answers. The next morning, I went to the local municipal archive. With help, I found old reports from the 1940s. Apparently, that convent had been shut down after several nuns were accused of abuse, and one in particular had gone missing. Sister Agnella. She was said to be obsessed with the tower bell, believing that if she rang it at midnight every night, her soul would be spared damnation. But the church was closed before her body was ever found. And the bell? It was dismantled in 1953. Except, I hear it every night. I don't live there anymore. I moved out the same week I woke up to find ashes in my kitchen sink, shaped like a small crucifix. But sometimes, when I visit friends nearby, I pass that bell tower. And when I do, I never ever look up.
I was backpacking through Europe during my gap year. By the time I got to Venice, I was tired, broke, and just wanted a quiet place to sleep. I booked a cheap single room at a tiny guest house near one of the smaller canals, far from the tourist crowds. The building was old. Narrow staircase, damp-smelling walls, and my room was barely big enough for a bed and a desk. But it had a window facing the canal, and I was too tired to care. Around midnight, I was getting ready for bed when I noticed something sticking out from beneath the bed frame. It was a suitcase. Old. Worn leather. Heavy. No tags. Curious, I tried to pull it out, but it was stuck, like wedged in place. I figured maybe someone forgot it there, or the last guest hid it. The next morning, I asked the owner about it. A tall man with sunken eyes. When I mentioned the suitcase, his smile disappeared instantly. He said, "It's not yours. Don't touch it." That night, I couldn't sleep. The room felt heavier. And then, around 2 a.m., I heard a soft click. Like a lock. I sat up. The suitcase had moved. It was no longer half hidden, it was fully out from under the bed. Facing me. Still closed. I didn't touch it. But I placed it back halfway under the bed. Just in case I'd moved it without realizing. Next morning, it was out again. So I packed and left. But the suitcase stayed in my mind. Days later, when I was in Florence, I saw a news article shared in English. Police in Venice had raided that same guest house after someone reported a smell. In the attic, they found several suitcases, all locked shut. Inside, human remains. In one suitcase, the very same model I'd seen, was a body wrapped in 1950s style clothing, along with handwritten letters. One of the notes simply said, "If you find me, it means he's not finished yet."